Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about a true icon, Charlie Chaplin. But maybe not the Chaplin you just think of as a funny guy in old movies. We're going to explore how one of cinema's greatest clowns used his incredible art to fight back against the biggest, scariest crises of the 20th century.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Think about this. Charlie Chaplin created two of the most unforgettable figures of his time, and they were polar opposites. He used them to take on two massive threats, the soul-crushing force of modern industry and the pure terror of rising fascism. So on one side, you have his most famous character, the lovable, always-gets-back-up tramp. And on the other, the monstrous dictator, Adenoid Heinkel. Two sides of a coin, played by the very same man.
All right, first up, the problem. You see, to really get what Chaplin was fighting against, we have to take a quick look at the world he was living in. And let me tell you, it was a world in crisis.
So the early 20th century was just this whirlwind of change, right? I mean, on one hand, you have incredible new technology, rapid industrialization, assembly lines, it all sounds like progress. But at the same exact time, it was an era of total chaos. We're talking about the Great Depression, the terrifying rise of dictators, and not one but two devastating world wars. The old beliefs in stability and progress, they were shattered. This created this deep anxiety, a feeling that humanity was really losing its way. And that is the world Chaplin is responding to.
Now you have to remember, Chaplin was a master of visual storytelling, especially silent film. He didn't need a bunch of dialogue to get his point across. So to really appreciate his genius, we're going to use a technique called frame study. What's that? Well, it just means we're going to look at individual shots from his movies, almost like they're a line in a poem. We'll break them down, look at the symbolism, and see how he built these powerful arguments, shot by single shot.
Okay, on to part two, Man versus Machine. We're diving into his masterpiece, Modern Times, from 1936. And what's really wild is that this is a silent film, released way after talkies had taken over. It was a bold move, using that classic old-school movie style to say something brand new and super critical about the modern world.
So check this out. This is where that frame study thing really pays off. Chaplin is a genius with visual metaphors. The movie opens with this shot of a herd of sheep, and then it immediately cuts to a crowd of workers pouring into a factory. Boom. The message hits you right away. People are being treated like a mindless flock. Then you get the assembly line scene, where the tramp gets literally swallowed by the gears. It's hilarious for sure, but it's also deeply critical. His body becomes just another part of the machine. It's a dark, unsettling idea.
And get this, he was talking about modern surveillance way before it became a hot topic. It's kind of freaky how ahead of his time he was. The factory boss watches everyone on this huge screen. He even yells at the tramp for taking a smoke break in the bathroom. This idea of constantly being watched, knowing that Big Brother could be looking at any moment, forces you to police yourself. It's a theme that George Orwell would make legendary years later in 1984.
Oh, and the feeding machine. This scene is just brilliant satire. The whole idea is to maximize efficiency, right? Let's invent a machine to feed workers so they don't have to stop for lunch. But of course, it goes haywire. It turns into this out-of-control contraption that's basically torturing the tramp. It's comedy gold, but it's making a really sharp point. This is what happens when technology becomes completely unhinged from actual human comfort.
And here's where Chaplin really flips the script on us. It's a totally subversive idea. The tramp gets arrested, and you think, oh no, this is terrible. But for him, prison is great. He gets food, a place to sleep, some stability. It's a welcome relief compared to the free world outside, which is just this brutal struggle. So what's he really saying? He's suggesting that maybe this modern world is its own kind of prison, where you're only free to be exploited or starve.
All right, let's jump ahead 4 years, to 1940, and the Great Dictator. After years of being the king of silent film, Chaplin finally decides to speak. And man, did he choose a topic. He broke his cinematic silence to take on the most monstrous threat of his time, the rise of fascism in Europe.
So, how does he satirize a dictator like Adenoid Heinkel? It's brilliant. He doesn't try to argue with his ideas point by point. Instead, he just shows that Heinkel's speeches are, well, they're just noise. They're meaningless. Chaplin understood that this kind of rhetoric isn't about communicating ideas. It's all about whipping up emotions and manipulating people, using pure sound to overwhelm your sense of reason.
And when you actually break down one of Heinkel's speeches, you see it's pure theater. He's not even speaking a real language. It's this angry, guttural gibberish that just sounds like German.
He's making these wild, hysterical gestures. It's all a performance. The whole point is to create a spectacle, to get the crowd into a frenzy. Chaplin is showing us that this type of power has nothing to do with logic. It's all about bypassing your brain and going straight for the gut.
This leads us to one of the most iconic scenes in all of movie history, the globe dance. It's such a powerful visual. You see Heinkel playing with this giant inflatable globe, dancing with it, treating the entire world like his personal toy. It perfectly captures the childish fantasy of a megalomaniac. But then, pop, the globe bursts in his hands. And in that one moment, Chaplin reveals how fragile and ultimately self-destructive that whole fantasy really is.
And here's the absolute genius of the film. Chaplin plays two roles. He's the dictator, Heinkel, but he's also a humble Jewish barber who is one of Heinkel's victims. And they look exactly alike. By doing this, Chaplin makes this incredibly profound point. Power, tyranny, it's just a costume, it's a uniform. You take that off, and what's left? Just a person. He's arguing that our shared humanity runs so much deeper than any role society tries to stick on us. So Chaplin's not just about tearing things down. In both of these classic films, even with all the darkness, he leaves us with a really powerful and enduring message of hope, a timeless plea for humanity.
So where do we find that hope? Even in these really bleak worlds, Chaplin shows us that the ultimate form of resistance is just human connection, compassion. In modern times, it's the beautiful, simple bond between the tramp and his companion, the gamin. In The Great Dictator, it's the resilience and humor you see in the community of the Jewish ghetto. He's saying that solidarity, just sticking together, is the real answer.
And this all leads to the film's incredible climax. Through a case of mistaken identity, the barber, the quiet, oppressed man, is mistaken for the dictator, and suddenly he's pushed onto the world's biggest stage and told to give a speech to the masses.
And in this moment, it's not just the barber speaking, it's Charlie Chaplin himself. After all those years as a silent star, he finally uses his own voice. And what he delivers is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful speeches in film history. It's this raw, passionate plea for democracy, for tolerance, for humanity. And wow, it still hits just as hard today. So Chaplin's work leaves us with a pretty big question, one that's maybe more relevant than ever. He used silent comedy and then, finally, his own voice to cut through all the noise and propaganda of his time. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how dark things get, art has a job to do. It can challenge power, champion humanity, and fight for a better world.